Hey there, YouTube. CJ's here from Content Clear servers Wolfsbane. Um, Today I'm going to be showing you an Inquisitor DPS build. Current is patch 2.1, coming to 2.2. I'll give you the spec, I'll give you the macros, I'll give you the rotation, and if you have anything else other than that, send me an in-game mail or post in the description below or content box. Alright, first we're going to go into Sultry. 61 Inquisitor for your cooldown reset on Nysyr's Rebuke and Bolt of Retribution, because that's going to be very important. 5 in Cabalist, Secrets of the Deep, and that's it for this one. And Tyranny is very important for that little bit of AoE damage for certain fights. Now, we're going to do 10 in Defiler, 5 in Open-Minded, and 5 in Horrible. And if your gear isn't quite raid ready, instead of putting it open-minded, put it up here, because that's going to outweigh the wisdom for now. But if your gears are good, then keep it in open-minded. Alright, go ahead and get that, and come back to the video. Alright, now you got your spec. Let's bump into macros, the fun part. Okay, so your first one's going to be your mash key, aka spam key. Nysyr Rebuke, this is kind of their macro. Alright, so Spiritual Scrutiny, which is going to, for the next 10 casts on your target, or next 10 casts on the target, it's going to ignore 50% of their armor, and so on and so on. Then Nysyr's Rebuke, which is going to do a large amount of damage, but also it's going to give you, important part, 4 stacks of Death and Life Conquered. And then when you reach 5 stacks, then your Bolt of Depravity procs, and you can cast that. And then to get the 5th stack of Life or Death Conquered, you're going to have Sanction Heretic in here, which is an insta-cast also, so when you're on the move, it's also helpful. And then following that's going to be Bolt of Retribution and Scourge. You're just going to spam that bolt throughout the macro to get your 5 stacks to proc the Bolt of Depravity. Scourge is in there because that's going to be an important part of your damage also. I just put in the macro, so when you're moving around, if your Sanction Heretic isn't ready, then you're actually putting a dot on the target, which is going to help out in the long run. Save you a little bit of time. Next macro is the dot macro. You don't really need it. You can just put Scourge on your hotbar. It doesn't really change anything. And then third macro is AoE, right here. It's a Tyranny of Death. And remember, you can only apply this to one target. I see people tab targeting all the time. It never works because it's never going to explode and do any damage. So you put Tyranny of Death. After 8 seconds, it blows up and does pretty good damage to anything around them. Then in melee range, you need to cast Soul Drain. Make sure you're in melee range or it won't work. And then Circle of Oblivion. And by the time you're done channeling Circle of Oblivion, Tyranny of Death will be ready to cast. And then Soul Drain, rinse and repeat. You get where I'm going. Alright, and then your last macro is your boom macro, which is just going to be Fanaticism and Bolt of Depravity. Fanaticism is going to make that Bolt of Depravity crit and do insane damage. And as far as that goes, that's macros. Now let's jump into the rotation. Fortunately for me, I've got hotkeys, which I don't know a lot of people use, but yeah. So first it's gonna get a little confusing, but I'll show you in the punch test. You're gonna spam this button 3 times, so Fanaticism, Nysyr, and then that, and then it procs, you see. So you're gonna click that. And then over here to your cooldown reset, Bolt of Depravity, Nysyr again, and then Bolt of Depravity. Keep in mind this isn't fast paced, so the damage isn't really going to accrue here. And then just make sure that your Scourge dot is up at all times. Spiritual Deficiency, that's not really needed in a raid because an Archon's going to override that. But if you're by yourself or doing some whatever you do in Rift, then you can keep that up and they're going to take an extra 7% damage. Oh yeah, I forgot to go over buffs real quick. Rage Blight, when you're damaged, you're going to get 1%, and it stacks up 5 times, so 5%. Pretty important. And then Spiritual Protection. Archon also overrides this in raids, so it's not very important, but if you're by yourself, then put it on, why not? Armor of Awakening. Super important. 10% damage increase, 5% damage increase in crits. Must have. And then Shout of Agony has a chance to hit them with an extra bolt, I guess you can say, and do some damage around enemies. As far as that goes, that's about it, guys, for macro spec and whatnot. If you have any questions, go ahead and post in the comment box, and I'll respond as quickly as possible. And if you really need some questions, go ahead. Like I said, I'm on Wolfsbane, CJS. That's my character's name. You can just send me an in-game mail, and I'll get back to you pretty quick. As far as like little damage boosts go, obviously you got your vials, your whetstone or oilstone, and the excellent bottle spell strikes is going to help out a ton. And if you're running around with a conquest trinket, that's all good, but getting a trinket that's going to proc some extra damage will help you out. And then for sure essences, those are super important. But thank you guys for watching. That's about it for today.